Previously. Before we get started on today's training, there are a few people I think you should meet. Oh no. That time already, huh? Well, let's get a move on. Suoh closed the blinds and locked the door. In fact, they've been so uncooperative that there's been a change of plans. A change of plans? I don't even know what the original plan was. I really had wanted to do this peacefully. Oh my god, what? Dude, isn't this a bit of an overreaction? Holy crap. This restaurant is just a front for Mr. Lee's real business. In reality, Mr. Lee here is what you would call a money launderer. Oh my god, I've seen Breaking Bad. I know what that is. Unfortunately for him, he also has a nasty habit of gambling. And as it turns out, he fucking sucks at it. It's fucking sugar. Oh my... Holy fuck. Chapter 4, Vigilante. 13 days later. Dang, suddenly I feel like between every single chapter was always like the next day, and now suddenly bang, 13 days later. Tuesday morning, September 20th. Almost 2 weeks have passed since my first day in the life of Marcus, and with every day, I find myself growing more confident and resourceful. We started out doing collections, as we'd done on our first day of work, and worked our way up to doing deliveries as well. Apparently, some gamblers actually win, even if their luck doesn't last. Since we usually finish around midday, I've been spending my afternoons sparring and training with Andre. Slowly but surely, I'm improving. Wow, it actually feels like we're getting used to this kind of life, even though we were forced into it. My injuries have lessened with every match, and my rate of recovery is at an all-time high. My tailbone no longer feels like it's broken. I'm able to dodge most of my opponent's blows, and I'm barely suffering a single bruise. Maybe I have what it takes to be a fighter after all. Despite my improvement, it seems I may not need to enter the ring after all. Although there's always a need for more combatants, reliable collectors are apparently far more valuable. As long as I keep doing what I'm doing, Marcus believes our current work will last for many months to come. I'll be able to make a comfortable living doing despicable, legally questionable work. Marcus won't need another lackluster cover job, and Karasu will have 2 trustworthy collectors. With our current predicament being what it is, everybody wins except the people that lose. Everybody, that is, except for Sara. While I've been growing stronger and more capable every day, Sara has been doing the opposite. She was as happy as ever over the weekend, then became depressed and on edge the second that Monday rolled around. Another week rolled by, and the same pattern repeated itself. So that definitely means that it's school. It has to be school, because during the weekends you don't have school. So if she's happy then you know that the moment the depressingness starts, yeah, I made up that word, but the moment that starts, if it's on Monday, then you gotta know, like, bang, a bell starts to light up, and it's gotta be school. Lately, Sara has been returning with misery so obvious that it pains me to simply look at her, let alone try to once ask what's wrong. Her mental state just continues to degrade, and she won't tell me a thing. Yesterday afternoon, Sara practically broke down the moment I returned. She cried and cried, allowing herself no reprieve as she silently wept for a reason still unknown. I carefully looked her over, noticing no physical injuries of any kind. Her clothes weren't torn, her hair was straight. Nothing was amiss. All I could do was offer Sara a shoulder to cry on as I attempted to console her, holding her tight as I was on the verge of tears myself. I don't know what's worse. Seeing the only loved one I have, left in such a state, or feeling powerless to do anything about it. This morning, the day after her most recent and grandiose episode, Sarah's gradual return to the world of the living brought with it a fresh attitude and renewed spirit. She quickly wiped her eyes and nose, changed into her school uniform, and began making breakfast. Whatever happened yesterday, it was nothing a good night's rest couldn't help rectify. Proceeding with our usual morning routine, Sara brushed off any and all questions I threw at her regarding last night's episode, determined to shut me out of whatever she's going through. Oh, no, this is bad, but I won't let her. I actually feel like he shouldn't. He definitely shouldn't. Like, they depend on each other so much, right? Especially since their parents have died. Like, this is the only family that they have. They have each other, right? So that's a bond that I feel like you should cherish the most. And I feel like Suoh definitely has been doing that. I mean, actually the reason why he's sort of, become this thug is actually to just both protect Sara, even though he's unable to do it, sadly, from things he doesn't know what it exactly is. But yeah, trying to protect her and provide a living for her, comfortable living. So he cherishes that bond quite a lot. Sara, I know Sara does as well, but when you're just sort of, I don't know what's wrong with her exactly, why she's acting depressed like this, but when you are sort of in that depressed state, you can sort of lose focus on your priorities in that sense. So we just somehow gotta hold on to this. Hopefully we can try and pull her out and just try and figure out what's wrong and help her with her, of course. Following Sara's usual departure, I quickly changed into a hooded jacket that I purchased on my way home from work. I stashed in my pocket the knife Marcus gave me and enough money to allow for any necessary expenditures, leaving a second later and taking off in Sara's direction. Oh my god. I don't know if this is the way to do it, but I can sort of understand that he feels the need to take desperate measures, Chasing after Sara's shadow, I made it to the bus stop with seconds to spare, boarding a few passengers behind her, and making sure to conceal my face. Sara isn't expecting me to be here, so she obviously won't seek me out, but all it takes is a single well-timed glance. I wonder what she'd say if she knew her own brother was stalking her. I know this is a bit much, but she isn't giving me many options here. Slowly passing my sister by, I took a seat towards the back of the bus, 2 seats behind Sara. I'm a little worried that keeping so close might result in my identity being exposed, but the alternative of being too far away to do anything seems far more off-putting. A few more passengers boarded the bus, before the bus set on its usual course. Sara sat quietly by herself, staring out the window the entire trip, seemingly without a care in the world. She didn't say a word to other passengers, or do anything to attract attention, and in return, she didn't meet with any conflict to speak of. The thing is, who actually talks with random passengers on the bus? The thing that I always do in a bus is obviously stare out the window and listen to music. Like, there's no reason to actually talk with strangers on the bus. Not that you shouldn't, and there are some situations where you get to talk, but I usually feel like most of the time, I can't actually remember a single time where I've talked to a person that I've never known before, just randomly talk to them on the bus. It was either just like, oh, sorry, and you because you bumped into them or something, or like, because the bus is really full, someone actually has like a bag on the seat next to them or something. I was like, excuse me, may I sit here or something like that. Those are the only sort of 2 things that I would say when on the bus. After what felt like only a few minutes, we reached our destination, ascending 2 flights of stairs as we made our way from the bus to the city's train station. I continued to follow Sara, but no matter how hard I looked, I couldn't find any reason for her recent depression. That means it's obviously not being, it has to be something with school, right? Not the trip to school. Could it be that she's being bullied at school after all? If that were the case, she'd want to change schools, not move houses. But if it isn't the commute, then... As if responding to my doubt, trouble finally emerged. Standing between Sara and the ticket gates were two teenage boys, each one of whom seemed to recognize Sara the moment they laid eyes on her. Likewise, Sara's expression worsened as they approached her, quickly confirming my suspicions. Oh my god, don't tell me what the fuck they are doing. What the hell are they just creepily staring at her? Although I was a little too far away to hear what the boys were saying to her, Sara's expression and demeanor spoke volumes. The duo continued to cut her off whenever Sara tried to walk away, often standing on either side of her to block her exits. Okay, isn't the train station like a really busy place? Why aren't there anyone around to sort of do anything or say anything about this? They smirked to themselves whenever they lashed out, laughing while Sara snorted in disgust. Even without hearing a single word, I knew they were the ones I was after. Once our train arrived, the two boys followed Sara into her chosen carriage. They allowed only a few feet between themselves and Sara at any point in time, following close behind as she tried to distance herself from them. Hey, slow down. What's the rush? Yeah, don't you want to sit with us? Hey, keep it down, you two. Oh yes, police to the rescue. Seizing opportunity the moment it struck, Sara sat down next to a police officer, finally granting herself a moment's reprieve from her pursuers. Nicely done, sis. Although the trip itself proved rather peaceful, harassment resumed the moment Sara reached her destination. It may only take a few minutes to get from the station to her school, but time isn't the only factor here. While the train station had security cameras, and the trains were lined with cops and rail staff, the road to her school encompasses little more than side streets and vacant lots. Unlike at the station, the two teenagers kept their distance on the walk to school. They followed at least 10 meters behind Sara at all times, allowing them to talk quietly between themselves without giving their target any indication as to what they were up to. With a safe distance between Sara and her pursuers, I moved in closer, enabling myself to listen in on the conversation the duo were having. You're killing me, man. Why not today? There aren't that many people around. Just be patient. Her time will come. We have to wait until she's alone, you know? You've been saying that for weeks. When is her time exactly? When God says so, my friend. Oh my god, don't you dare bring God into this. Just stay calm. Getting desperate is the first step towards getting caught. Unless they're trying to convert her to, I don't freaking know, some sort of Christianity or religion, then it's still kind of weird that they're stalking her for this, but otherwise there's no reason to bring God into this. Like, right, it's all part of God's plans, because it really sounds like they're trying to do something different, right? Well, I suppose you would know. But shouldn't an ex-con like you have a bigger sex drive? Why does it feel like I'm the only one into it today? You're just too focused on that silver girl. You need to diversify your palate. Taste a couple of other girls first to whet your appetite, you know? Oh my god, this is disgusting. As I listened to what the two were discussing, I could feel a familiar surge from the bottom of my stomach. I clenched my fist so tight that I could feel my own pulse, utilizing every fiber of self-control at my disposal in order to keep my fists by my side. I know, I need to remain calm, but my blood is already boiling. The mere thought of what they're alluding to is driving me absolutely livid. Sara's been mere feet away from these two cretins for weeks now, being broken down mentally until the point of tears, and they're laughing and snickering about what they have planned for her? If I don't step in, if I didn't tail Sara at all, I can only imagine how long it would take before... No, don't even think like that. What matters is that I am here, and that this will end all today, one way or another. As Sara neared the end of her short walk, she practically sprinted through the school gates, enjoying the safety her school provided. With other students mulling around the front of the school and hundreds more within, she was soon amongst friends, safe from the clutches of her stalkers. Bye-bye. See you after school. Those dirtbags. They really are laying it on thick. Between the discretion they've shown thus far and the false familiarity they exude, it's no wonder that Sara hasn't managed to shake them off. It's not a rare sight. Seeing teenagers hit on one another or breach the personal spaces of others, as long as they don't step too far out of line, random passers-by would think nothing of it. If their intentions didn't make me want to throw up, I might actually praise how much thought they've put into this. So, are you ready for the next train? There are always fewer passengers on the late trains, and the students are in too much of a hurry to notice shit. Sounds like a plan to me. No argument here. Heading back on a slightly different route, I soon find myself watching the duo from afar, giving myself enough cover to prevent the two from noticing my presence. I took the time to make myself room between some bushes and the side of a nearby house, settling in for longer than I would have liked as I watched over my targets. Although watching and waiting isn't a skill of mine in which I have much faith, it does give me time to cool off, offering much needed shade and breathing room. I should use this time to calm down, gather my thoughts, and the moment I tried to calm myself, I once again felt that same sickening feeling in my chest. What on earth was I thinking? How could I possibly calm down, knowing what those two are doing? How could I just sit and wait while those two go about their lives, preparing to grab another victim? How can I let people like them roam the streets, preying on innocent young girls? Scum like that don't deserve to live, much less breathe the same air as my sister. They could both die tomorrow, and the world will be a better place for it. Better yet, they could die today. Uh-oh. Are we planning on what I think we're planning? 10 minutes of agony later, another train came along, carrying with it several unsuspecting targets. Even from my post shrouded in foliage, I could easily make out every movement of my targets, and more importantly, their next victim. A slender, timid-looking girl, probably a year younger than Sara and I. She was wearing the same uniform and had a similar build to Sara, but her demeanor and attitude seemed more naive and carefree. A pretty young girl who'd make too perfect a victim. No sooner had I made my guess than the duo began stalking their prey. Their target was in too much of a rush for the same level of caution to be necessary, unaware that she was even being followed. They tailed the girl closely, roughly matching her pace until the three passed by an empty dead-end street. Now, oh my god. Hey, hold her legs properly. Shut up and gag her. Oh my fucking god, no. One teen covered the girl's mouth with cloth he had been concealing in his pocket, while the other grabbed her legs. Taking advantage of her shock, the duo immediately carried her towards the empty street, picking a house on the corner they presumably knew to be empty ahead of time. The girl was scared stiff, but once the initial shock wore off, she began flailing wildly. Heh, you picked a fasty one today. Of course, energetic girls are the best, don't you think? No argument there. I followed the three as inconspicuously as I could, utilizing neighbors' yards instead of risking being seen on the side of the road. Climbing up the fence of the house in question, I leaned across and grabbed onto the railing of the house's back veranda. pulling myself to the dilapidated building and quietly entering from the back. I slowly walked from room to room, watching my back every step of the way. Tiptoeing, I remained vigilant not to make a sound, proceeding with caution until I found my own targets. Jeez, stop struggling, would ya? You know it won't do any good. You tell her, bud. Pity women never listen. By the time I found the duo, one was already holding the girl down, sitting on her stomach, and pinning both of her arms down with his own. Oh, this is so disgusting. Fuck. His weight appeared to be more than enough to restrain the girl, making the job easier than he dared hoped. In her mouth was the same cloth that they had used to gag her during the initial grab, now kept in place by the use of duct tape. Alrighty, almost done. About time. Let's get this show on the road already. While the first teen prevented their prey from escaping, the other emerged from the next room, bringing with him a video camera and a stack of condoms. What the fuck, a video camera? Like, how fucking stupid are you? Not only are you like, you know, you're committing a crime here, right? You're committing a crime and you're stupid enough to record yourself doing it? Yet for some reason they're smart enough to bring condoms with them though. So, hey. What the actual fuck, man? This is actually slightly pissing me off. By now the frightened girl knew exactly what they were planning, sobbing silently as she continued to flail and attempt to regain her freedom. Come on, we gotta save her soon. Come on, hurry it up already. Take too long and I'll start without you, you know. Calm down. We have all the time in the world. Let's just enjoy ourselves, yeah? While the dominant member of the duo set up his tripod and camcorder. Oh my god, they even got a fucking tripod. Oh, Jesus, mother effing Christ. I slowly edged my way to the next room, removing from my pocket the knife I'd intended on using as a last resort. Biding my time and slowing my breathing, I tried to get a hold of my nerves, clutching my blade tightly as I neared the dominant young man. Despite my on-the-job training of the last few weeks, I found myself shaking in both fear and anticipation, afraid to use the blade in my hand, yet compelled to put the two criminals in their place. I could see myself attacking them, beating the duo into submission, making them pay for victimizing a young girl like this. But when it came to actually using the knife in my hand, I froze. Throughout the many violent encounters I had started and ended over the years, not once had I used a weapon. I had never done something as cowardly as sneaking up on someone and stabbing them in the back, or bringing a knife to a fist fight. Even when I killed my previous boss, Mr. Mudo, I had done so with my bare hands, killing him by accident as things got out of control. So when I tried to use my blade in the hand to attack the scum in front of me, to give them what they had coming, I realized that You're a coward. Yes, I am a coward. I know what I need to do. I know how to make the situation all better. So why? Why can't I move? You're weak. It's because I'm weak, isn't it? I don't have the strength to help that girl. Helping complete strangers is a job for the police. I have no business with that girl to begin with. Why am I even here? Why did I come here today? That girl's just some random person I've never even met before. Her well-being is not my problem. And if it were Sara? Sara? No. If that had been Sara in there. If that had been Sara. There. The perfect angle. Ready for your debut, little miss? Interrupted mid-sentence. The teen's eyes shot wide open as pain, unlike anything he'd ever felt before, permeated throughout his body. Protruding with his stomach was the tip of a knife, taking with it bone and cartilage from his spine. Before he could so much as wipe off the blood dripping from his mouth, the teen's legs buckled and forced him to the ground, refusing to move no matter how much he willed them so. What the fuck? With the first youth disposed of, I swiftly embraced his partner, grabbing the teen by his throat and dragging him off the petrified girl beneath. Alerted to my presence by his partner's groan, my second target tried to fight back, nailing one of the remaining bruises on my stomach on his first shot. But with adrenaline and anger fueling my every action, the pain didn't even register. I removed my hand from his throat and gripped him by the hair, exposing his throat for the next obvious. The moment my hand left his throat, my knife took its place. I cut quickly and deeply, paying no heed to the blood spraying on my hand. The young man desperately grabbed at his throat, trying to stop the bleeding by any means necessary. But with both of his hands occupied, any defense he could have offered was rendered moot. Seizing the opportunity, I focused on the back of my prey's neck, and at last, oh my god, it was over. Damn. As my second victim fell to the floor in a bloody heap, I slowly walked away, careful not to step in his pooling remains. But as I looked down at my hands, a familiar feeling of shock and horror set in, driving me to an unwelcome realization. It happened again. I had been overwhelmed by bloodlust a moment ago, but the second my prey hit the floor, I realized what I had done. My hand shook, and I could hear my ragged breathing. Before me was a corpse, a deceased human being, a human being I had killed. Just like with Mudo, I lost myself in the moment, forgetting all about the situation at hand and thinking only about my targets. No, this is much worse. Mr. Mudo was an accident. I slammed his head against the table during our fight, never intending to actually kill him. But this time, I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew. And yet as I stared at my bloody hands, I noticed subtle movements out of the corner of my eye. The girl I had sought to save had her back against the wall, no doubt in shock and terrified by everything that had happened since she alighted from the train. She looked at me with unbridled fear in her eyes, a view I repaid with a calm smile. Looking at the frightened girl, I remember where I was and why I had gone to such extremes. I didn't set out to kill anyone today. I came here to protect Sara, to protect girls like this, or like this one, from those fiends. My methods may have been contemptible, but even so, I had my reasons. I removed the tape from the frightened girl's mouth with my bloody hands, meeting with far less resistance than I thought I would. Whether paralyzed by fear, or simply smart enough to not provoke a murderer, the girl remained frozen, allowing me to cut the tape, biting her hands. I guess that's it for me. Those two won't be going anywhere, and the girl is free to move as she pleases. My work here is... Just as I turned to leave, I felt my leg snag on something. When I spun back around, what I found was the arm of the girl I had just helped, tightly clinging to my pants. Her gaze was locked onto my own pupils, no longer showing the fear I had witnessed moments ago. I suppose that's for the best. If she's lucid enough to differentiate between friend and foe, then I should be able to leave her without worrying. I removed the girl's arms from my leg, then turned once again to walk away. Oh my god. Like, the thing was, we saw it during those, when he, like, I think it was right after he killed Mr. Muto, right? You saw sort of those words pop up on screen. This game is called Sickness. For some reason, I have a feeling that he might have, like, schizophrenia or something. Like, the different voices in his head telling him to kill things and whatnot. Not directly to kill things, but the voices, if they are the voices in his head, of course, but that particular text that popped up on the screen, it really felt like it was actually convincing him to commit the acts that he just did to kill those two. Because it basically convinced him, right? Because he was like, wait, what the hell am I doing here? Why am I even here? I know there's no reason for me to actually be here, because I have no connection to this girl whatsoever. But then somehow those words on the screen convinced him that if this were to happen to Sara, which it could have happened, of course, then what would he do? And then bam, he just basically, you know, his eyes turned red and just went on a killing spree. And then after that, it all wore off. So it's kind of like it's not a spell, of course, but it just sort of felt like that. So I'm really curious as to whether it's actually like something like schizophrenia or something. I don't know, but holy freaking crap! I mean, as much blood and gore and sort of murder in this game is, like, in a situation like that, like, the only thing he could possibly do is he could do nothing, which would obviously be a horrible thing. He could only beat them up, which would be good, but it's less reliable. And then, like, okay, go run away, but then those two guys are still around. They could still possibly go after Sara. So then sort of the only option that remains is to dispose of them, to kill them. And I'll say it again, right? I said it many times. In general, like, when it comes to, like, obviously like real life situation, when it's in games, it's like, I'll kill this, I'll kill that. It's a game, right? But in real life situations, killing is just never it's not a good option ever, really, I think. But in this situation, it's just sort of like, oh my god, it was the best out of a bad situation in and of itself. Holy fuck. Dang. The thing about this, yeah, is that it's all in this sort of poor and bad neighborhood as well, which is why he can get away with this sorts of things, because the police is not really involved in this entire neighborhood, or in Richmond, or at least in the lower class part of Richmond, right? Because it was split up into sort of like two parts. So, which is why that really allows this crime to thrive a lot, I feel.